Hello, everyone. I'm Dan Swift, founder and CEO at Numentum, and welcome to the Speaker Series, where we spotlight some of the most interesting minds in the world of revenue generation. At Numentum, we help forward-thinking B2B organizations create better buyer experiences and deliver new momentum to their revenue engine. On this episode of the Speaker Series, we speak with Colleen Chulis, Group Vice President of Large Enterprise and Public Sector at Dayforce. We have a great conversation about the things that bring happiness, going viral, and the concept of Ohio, only handle it once. We met back in 2019, and it was at the very start of our relationship with SAP. And I'm sure we'll talk more about your experience at SAP as we go through today's conversation. But you recently left SAP to join the incredible team at Dayforce. So can you tell us a little bit about Dayforce and your role over there?
Sounds good. I loved SAP. It was so hard to leave, but as you do in life, you kind of look for the next big thing and try to continue to grow. So I still text my SAP colleagues all the time. So I will always have a big piece of my heart for SAP. But yes, I joined just about 3 months ago at Dayforce. Dayforce used to be called Ceridian, but recently rebranded as Dayforce. So essentially, it's a global human capital management company, 2 headquarters, one in Minneapolis in the US and one in Toronto. The Canadians are just as kind as everyone always says, so love working with them. And really, we're just an HCM platform. So everything from paying your employees to managed pay and benefits to compliance, to taxes, to learning management systems, really everything you could imagine that a employer would need to manage their team. That's something that we provide. So the brand promise at Dayforce is to make work life better, which is just something I've always been very, very passionate about. So I can really stand behind it. It's been great.
I'm going to be asking you a lot about that because I know you are. But tell us about the role itself. So Group Vice President of Sales, and you're covering large enterprise and public sector. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So we define large enterprise as anything over 12,000 employees. So really anything over 12,000 employees in all of the United States, and then public sector, which is what you would think, cities, counties, schools, municipalities. Gosh, that's a hard word to say in the morning. So those all fall under my team. And really, it's fantastic. I mean, we're trying to help our customers deal with the challenges of today, right? How do we schedule our stores? How do we ensure that we have the right efficiency? How do I get the right people in the right seat? What happens with the ebbs and flows of the day, of the workflow? And then making sure that people are paid correctly. I mean, that matters so much. We sometimes just take it for granted, but when you're not paid correctly, that's just not okay. So we really have incredible technology, incredible services team to make that happen. So that's my role. I mean, we have great customers, customers like Barnes and Noble, City of Columbus, Spirit Aerosystems, Harley Davidson, a lot within the sports world, like the Denver Broncos. So really across the country, and I have a wonderful team of colleagues that I work with.
Amazing. Very excited for you. Very excited. So taking you way back to when you were a kid, were you, right, one day I'm going to be a Group Vice President of Large Enterprise and Public Sector? What did you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be a famous singer. So I thought I was going to be like Britney Spears. She's basically my age, but I definitely thought I was going to be a performer. And then when that was, my second option was probably something international. I loved studying Spanish and I loved wanting to kind of solve the world's challenges and fix the world. So I thought that I would be some sort of diplomat, or I really love just anything international. So clearly I'm not necessarily doing that, although we do sell to global companies and we're trying to solve their international problems. But I would have never, ever thought that I'd have a career in sales. Never.
Well, it's interesting because you what you just said, you had 10 years at TransPerfect, right? Which is very much aligns with what you've just said in terms of their solutions, right? And then obviously 5 years with SAP and then SAP SuccessFactors. And when you look back at your career, many of our guests will pinpoint one or a couple of things that they would say, these moments were pivotal in my career. When you look at your career, what were those one or two things?
I think likely leaving TransPerfect was the pivotal piece of my career. I had been there for actually almost 13 years, pretty much right out of college. I had 3 children. I, changed as a human, and just to leave that company and really kind of really start over. I mean, I had a global role at TransPerfect. I loved that company. They were going through a lot of changes, and I had believed that I'd been with them for the rest of my life. That's what I thought. So it was beyond terrifying to leave a company that you've been with for 13 years. That's quite a niche industry. It's translation. With people that and how does that translate to another sector, another company? I mean, going to SAP, there's 110,000 employees. It's not like I can call up my buddy somewhere. I mean, I had to prove myself on day one. So I was completely terrified. And I think that entire process of leaving TransPerfect, starting over really in software, and basically completely rebuilding myself, was definitely the pivotal moment. Like, I feel like if I could get through that, I could get through most things. And that just leads with me, because I think that if you also have the core skills that you need, those translate. I always thought that would happen, but I didn't really believe it until I did it. And so if you know how to manage people, if you know what matters to a customer, if you know how to listen, all these kind of basic things, but if you actually do them very, very well, you can kind of pick up and do it in different industries. So it was absolutely, like, beyond terrifying. Like, I was seeing a therapist like twice a week. It was not pretty. But I'm really glad that I did it. And now I have, some success under my belt with SAP, and I learned a lot, and I'm able to bring that to a new organization.
I love that. And TransPerfect, as an organization, how many employees was it? Was it a sizable
They had about
organization?
4,000,
Okay.
5,000 at the time when I was there.
And then you're going straight to, like you mentioned, SAP, which is just ginormous. So I guess because this really resonates with me. I spent 13 years with a company that was acquired by Thomson Reuters. Slightly different, where it was 400 people and suddenly it was 82,000 people.
Wow.
But it's those entrepreneurial skills that you kind of learn working at a smaller company, and then you land somewhere with SAP. I imagine that probably helped you enormously to kind of navigate an organization like SAP and be successful, right?
It did. It was actually hard for me, because at SAP, it was kind of like, you have a job, stay in your lane. But if you're coming from an entrepreneurial organization, it's like, you see something that's fixed, go fix it. That's your job. You noticed it, do it. So it was actually a bit challenging for me at SAP. I had to keep kind of pulling myself back to my job, which was basically hit the number. Even if that thing over there is broken, I had to keep my head down, which is another reason why I'm, back to Dayforce over here, because I have the opportunity to kind of bring both worlds to Dayforce, because it is that entrepreneurial spirit, but a larger company. So it's really kind of coming full circle for me. But yes, I mean, I actually had an Excel spreadsheet, and my first 6 months, I would call 2 or 3 people a day that I did not know at SAP, and just say, like, who they were, what they did, what they're good at. Like, if I need to call somebody, and this could be just someone that was in the press, or I see their name on an email somewhere. So I was able to expand my network pretty quickly at SAP, and people would make jokes like, I've been here for 10 years. You've been here for 1 year. How do you know more people than I do? Like, well, I made it my job to know more people than you do, because I had to kind of catch up. So that's how I did it.
That is such good advice, though, for folks who are listening in that situation, because most people won't do that. Most people will not do what you've just described. And that is, for some folks, incredibly scary. So kudos for you for doing that. I want to switch gears a little bit. Okay. You, like myself, have got a younger family. Your kids are just a little bit older than me. Now, you've got 3, is that right?
I do. 3. I have a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and an 8-year-old.
So with the job that you have, and what you're trying to do work-wise every single day, and then with 3 kids, what does a typical day look like? I'm interested in routines, because I'm fascinated to see if it's similar to my world. What time does your day start? Like, I want to know details.
I mean, should I share my screen and show you all the different my Excel spreadsheets? Yes. Because I'm very, very proud of them. Very proud of them. All the different schedules. But yes, it's not easy. So if people say, oh, it's easy, or she makes it look easy, it is it is ugly. It is hard. Because when I'm working, I'm trying to be like the absolute best worker I can be. And when I'm being a mom or a wife or a friend, I'm trying to be fully in. We know that that's impossible, but I'm doing the best. So normally I try to do like a workout class every day. So that's an hour of my day, but I have an elbow injury right now. So I'm not going to the gym. But normally I'd be waking up a bit earlier to go to the gym. So as of right now, probably wake up at 6:45 a.m. My kids can get themselves up. Thank God. I'm not back in the days of diapers and all of that, although I did it. They're getting ready. I'm getting ready. And we leave the house at like 7:20, 7:25. So I get ready very quickly, drop them off at school, get a Starbucks, and I'm back at my desk. Probably back at my desk by 8 o'clock. And I probably spend the first 30 or 45 minutes on like life management. So messaging the babysitters for the day, hey, pick up at this time, all those things. And then, organizing whatever needs to be organized. Oh, there's a soccer tournament this weekend, book your hotel. I mean, that's the stuff that I'm doing. And then probably around like 8:30, I am in it for work. I mean, I don't really look at the other stuff. I'm not really texting, and I'm just in it for work. Probably from 8:30 to 5:30, I am in the zone. And I get a lot done because I think some people, they're more like, oh, I can do it tonight, or I'll call you later tonight. Like, I don't want to call you tonight. I want to get it done right now. So work pretty fast and furiously. And then the kids come home. We live here at University of Virginia, right down the road. So we have this amazing access to these fantastic babysitters and drivers with all the college girls. So one of them picks up the kids, brings them where they need to be. But from 5:30 on, pretty much I'm driving or cooking or helping with homework, doing all the typical parent things. And then they go to bed, and I usually go back to my desk for a little bit and just kind of clear up. So that does not sound exciting at all. I wish I had some like cool thing in there, but that's the reality of it. I also try to go for a few walks a day. That's like a brain break, and try to get some steps in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's a very structured and organized day, because you have to be, right? And it's the planning that goes on. It's almost, well, it's two jobs that you've got to manage somehow within the space of one business day, which is it can be a lot. I still have one in diapers, by the way. So.
Yeah, that's a whole nother world, like where you can't let them out of your sight. I mean, my husband, I'm very thankful for him. He coaches the men's soccer team at the University of Virginia. So we actually have similar mentalities. I'm trying to coach a sales team. He's coaching a real soccer team. But he does a lot too. And he's in season. It's a bit harder. It's a little bit more on me during his fall season. But the rest of the time, we're just texting each other and just getting through it. And divide and conquer. It works.
Absolutely. Well, it'd be remiss of me if I didn't ask you about a video that went viral that you posted of your daughter. Now, this was about probably 3 years ago or so.
Yeah.
And it was your daughter impersonating you in the home office. Now, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's on Colleen's profile. But it was absolutely priceless, and it had more than 500,000 people who engaged with it directly. It received more than 50,000 comments. It was reposted nearly 20,000 times, and it was views-wise tens of millions of views. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about the background to the video, and why do you think it resonated just so much with people?
That was the wildest experience, and it still comes up in conversation probably once a week. So, it was COVID, right? Kids are home. I was working. For me, work didn't slow down. I know many things did for others, but it didn't for me. And so I was working all day, and kids would always come. This is the desk where it happened. They would always come to the door and, be knocking or asking things. So unbeknownst to me, I had started, I guess, a bad habit of like snapping and pointing, like, I'm looking at the camera. Don't come and bother me. So my daughter is just very theatrical and very, very funny. And so she was pretending to be a teacher earlier in the night and acting like the teachers at school. And then she came to my desk and was pretending to be me. And I just took my iPhone out and took like 2 little videos of her. Thought nothing of it, sent it to my brother who I worked with at SAP. And I was like, gosh, this is funny. And he's like, Colleen, that is really funny. Like, you got to send it to all of our colleagues. And I was like, we'll just put it on LinkedIn. It's funny. And like the next day, it was like 1 million views. And then it was 2 million views and 3 million views. And it was quite terrifying because I would literally Google like how to handle going viral. There's no article out there that tells you how to do it. But it was amazing. And I think to answer your question about why did it strike a chord, I mean, that was the reality. I mean, I didn't necessarily look like the best mom in it, but I think people are like, that's life, right? Like I'm working, my kids are coming in, they're being loud. I'm trying to shush them. I'm trying to be on camera. And everyone knew that feeling. Like everyone knows that feeling of like, guys, get out of the office. I'm on camera. And it also showed her multitasking. You know, she's typing, she's texting, she's writing things down on all the Post-it notes that I still have everywhere. And I think people just saw themselves in it, and it just kind of struck a chord, and it still makes me giggle when I watch it today.
It's so good. So for everyone listening, you have to watch it. And I think it's right. It shows the human right behind the role. We're all just trying to get it done, get through the day, but deliver with excellence wherever we can. And you know, it's for me. I watched it. I was crying and laughing. It was just exactly what I do too. Now I want to stay on this topic, but it does bleed a little bit into how you stay focused, because imagine you've got you mentioned it, sort of 8:30 to 5:30 where you're in the zone with work. In your role, you're going to get pulled in all sorts of different directions. So how do you stay focused on what's most important, and then and what needs to get done? How do you do that?
It's really hard. It's also really hard because I'm new at this company, right? I've been here for less than 3 months, so I'm still figuring out. Like if someone says they need to talk to me, I guess I have to talk to them, right? Because I don't know how it all fits together, and that's just challenging. That's starting a new job, so everyone knows that feeling. But, you know, theoretically, everyone says, you know, put the customer first, put your people first. So yes, theoretically, of course, like, are we doing the right thing for the customer, for the prospect, for their experience? Okay. Is my team getting what they need? Okay. But realistically, you know, growing a business and really digging in and creating some sort of repeatable processes, that just takes a lot of just grit and hard work. So I have a lot of different kind of, in my mind, work streams. I map them out on paper, like very old school. And I just have all the different things that I think are basically broken, or, you know, need fixed or need tweaked. And I have all the different actions I'm taking below those. And I make sure that they're moving every week. So I'm very into the whole Ohio. I don't know if you've heard of that concept, Ohio, only handle it once. So you're going to work on something once, and then you're putting it aside versus I'm going to work on that speech. I'm going to work on that speech. I'm going to have lunch. I'm going to have a call and work on that speech. It's like, I'm going to do 3 hours of this and nothing else. And then I'm going to put it aside till I can look at it again in 2 days. So I am very into blocking my time. If people call me randomly, I'm probably not picking up, because don't mess up my flow. And so that's just kind of the tactical nature of it. But really just making sure that all the things that matter are being pushed forward, but primarily how I'm being measured, right? So I think that's really important. People think that things are important, but is that how you're being measured at the end of the year? And I'm being measured at the end of the year by ensuring that we're growing our business and that we are doing the right things and being competitive and having the right best-in-class sales team. So when I think at the end of the year, have I hit my numbers? Do I have the best team? That kind of helps me guide the day-to-day. And that's often coaching that I give to people on my team. So they're busy doing this thing over here. And I say, well, that's great, but that's actually not your job. You know, that's not what you're necessarily going to be looked at by the end of the year. So can we get you back over here? Or maybe that shouldn't be your job. Maybe we should switch your job, right? So that's probably how I look at it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it definitely does. And it's so interesting when you talk to people like you who are just at that point in your careers where you just get it, you know it, you're established business leaders. But how have you evolved as a leader over the years? When you look back at your career as a leader, how has that changed?
Yeah, I think I've just accepted that I'm totally human. And I think when you start out, the president, the CEO, they seem like untouchable. They seem smarter than anything. You know, they're like, there's no way that they have problems or they make mistakes. As you grow in your career and you have more access to kind of the C-suite, you realize they are totally human. They make huge mistakes. They all have their own weaknesses. So I used to be really hard on myself. Like I basically had to be perfect. I think I give myself a lot of grace now. I'm very transparent. I think that sometimes to new teams that takes people aback because I don't really put on a front and I don't really put on a show. It's like what you see is what you get. People always say, gosh, you're so real. I'm like, okay, what is the other option? Like, I'm not real. Like, that sounds terrible to know. Oh, you're so not real. So I'm very real. And I've also just kind of learned to live with it. You know, I used to, again, I guess I just used to beat myself up a lot, really overanalyze things. I know I did the best I could. I tried the best I could that day. I probably messed that up. I apologized and I'm moving on. Whereas I couldn't have done that a few years ago.
Yeah, it's so good. So for folks who are listening to this now, there's a lot of people who in our listeners who are starting out on their careers who are probably giving themselves too much of a hard time, right? So as long as you learn from the experience and try not to make the same mistakes over and over, then that's obviously the goal here. But it's easy when you get further on in your career to look back and give yourself that grace, like you mentioned. Now, when you look at your life and the life you've just described, family and business, is there anything that you'd do differently?
I probably wish that I had listened to like my inner voice earlier. Like, I think we all know about it and we know that it's there, but we push it aside a lot when we're younger. And we're trying to impress, or we're trying to get the role, or we're trying to, I don't know, just beat the other guy. So yeah, sure, I'll do that. Sure, I'll move to that place. Sure, I'll fire that person because you think that they should be fired, right? Like all those things where you just kind of say yes because you're going to be a good corporate soldier. I wish that I had probably looked back and thought a bit more about those, because you have to deal with it at the end of the day. It's your brand. And I don't think I did anything, that I don't have any like horrible memory. Like, I can't believe I did that, but it's more little things. Like, I think that I was always trying to adapt myself to the environment versus adapting the environment to me. And, again, therapy has helped with that, even just starting in this new role. And I was saying, gosh, everyone is so smart here. Like I said this to my therapist, they are so smart. Like they can just figure things out in their head. And I feel like they know so many more details than I can remember. I always pride myself on details. This is, me feeling like I don't have it. She said, well, they clearly, they got you for a reason. And they don't want you to be like them. They want you to be like you. So like, what are you again? So that's another reminder to me, was just like, I am different, and it's kind of like, take it or leave it. I will do my best I can, but instead of just fully adapting and being part of your culture and just putting my own personal stuff aside, I need to find that kind of mix. So that's something that I really care about now, that in the past I've just said, who is Colleen? I have no idea. I am the corporation. And now I don't believe that anymore.
Yeah. You mentioned therapy twice on this call. You've got a therapist. Mm-hmm. I've got a therapist. I think it's absolutely life-changing. I've had one for 20 plus years. Got to ask you, like, for folks listening who don't, I mean, what would you tell folks who are considering maybe getting a therapist or speaking to someone? What would you tell them?
Oh my gosh, it's just so necessary, right? There's not that many people that can just listen to you and find your trends and kind of look at things like they're not your mom, they're not your husband, they're not your coworker. They're just looking at you like a blank slate and figuring out how to help you. I mean, it's an incredible gift. I really don't know what I would do without it.
I love it. Me too. So outside of business, I want to know 2 or 3 things that bring you happiness. Obviously, family clearly is one, but what are other things that bring you happiness?
My husband coaches soccer, like I mentioned before. And so I do love going to the University of Virginia men's soccer games. I mean, those kids are amazing. They're often in my house, eating food here, and I just love seeing them, and being a part of that community is incredible. So I love soccer and sports. My kids' soccer and sports are great too. My daughter, Adele, who was in the video, she's gotten really into horseback riding. So any of that stuff I love. I'm very, very, very competitive. I always walk into any sort of sports game, even if it's my 8-year-old, thinking, it doesn't matter, Colleen. Everyone's just going to play their best. It's fine. And then halfway through the game, I'm like, oh, we have to win. So it's just fun for me. I sing in a band, which is very fun. That has been something I put off for many, many years from work and then having young children, but just now it's starting to come out again. So that's a blast. And then I read a lot of books. I read like business books and all of that. So my perfect morning would be, I don't have to drive anyone to soccer. I'm home and I can just like read a book for 2 hours in bed. So that's what I enjoy.
Isn't that interesting? You said right at the start of this conversation today that when you were a little girl, you thought you might want to be an entertainer.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, you found yourself now with this massive job, but also in your free time entertaining other folks as well. I mean, isn't it funny how life goes full circle sometimes? For someone who is starting out on their career journey, listening to this conversation, what's your biggest piece of advice for someone who might want to have a role like yours one day?
I think no matter what, you have to work harder than everyone else. Like, let's just put that out there. I think people like the easy answer, but of just, be smart or find your passion or whatever. But a lot of it comes down to just working harder, putting in more hours, being more prepared, having the better presentation deck, having the better QBR deck, getting to the meeting early. I mean, all those little things, but if you do them all the time for 10, 15, 20 years, it actually does make a difference. So I do have to say that, like, I need to see when someone's saying that they want that, are they actually putting in the time and the effort, and do they have the grit? Because it's gritty. The other thing I often think about is people, want to be something, but do they actually want to do the thing that is? So I say to sometimes people, if I'm mentoring them, you say you want to do this. It's like someone saying that they want to be a surgeon, but they don't like blood. Well, you like the concept of being a surgeon perhaps, or helping or fixing, but you don't like blood. So then you probably shouldn't be a surgeon. So when people say they want to do a sales career, can you deal with stress? Can you deal with a lot of stress? Can you deal with, are you hyper competitive? If these things aren't there, you might do something different. You could still be in the world of business, but maybe you don't want to be a sales leader. So I really try to think about the mechanics of the role, and do you check those boxes? Because you really have to do well in it, or else you're probably just going to be miserable. So just finding the right fit for the person. But yeah, working hard and making sure that the day-to-day stuff, that you can actually do it.
I love that. If you could wave your hand and just change one thing about the business world, just one thing, what would it be?
I'd have it be 50% women in leadership. 50% women everywhere. Just I believe that would make lasting change, and businesses would run better, all the things. It's hard being a woman in business sometimes. It's hard for everyone, but I really believe that if we could create some more inclusive spaces and allow access for women a bit easier, that I think the business world would improve.
Amen. Agreed. And if you could wave your hand and change one thing about the world in general, what would it be?
I mean, I would just to make every person have the most basic access to clean water, food, healthcare, roof over their head. I mean, I think that would go a very, very long way. I know it's not a sexy answer, but it's if everyone had just those very, very basics, I think that the world would be a much better place. Beautiful
answer. Last question for you. What would you tell your 12-year-old self?
My poor almost 12-year-old daughter has to hear me all day long, because I'm always like, okay, when I was your age, if I knew this. I think that probably the main thing is to speak up for yourself and not care what other people think as much. I think it's very much easier said than done. I mean, I have a son in 8th grade and a daughter in 6th grade. That middle school is rough. But the other thing is, the coolest people in middle school are almost never the coolest people in adulthood. So just be you and it'll work out.
Outstanding. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us. You've been absolutely amazing.
Thank you. It was so much fun. It's so great to reconnect after these, few years, and I'm really excited about this. So thank you.